Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. It is April. Can you guys believe we are in the fourth month of 2024? I cannot believe it. This year, I think every month I say this, but it just feels like it's zooming by. I mean, my daughter has less than 8 weeks left in her senior year, and I will have an official high school graduate, which is literally blowing my mind right now. I was actually talking to a couple of my friends who also are first-time senior parents, and it's this weird area that I've heard everybody talk about, but now living in the moment, I'm like, oh, I get it. I have a little bit more empathy for people, but it's this weird place. Like, a door is closing, a chapter is closing. And even though we've known about it for a long time, it's a very weird place to be. And so it's important for me, as I say this to you guys right now, is a reminder to stay in the moment, to stay as present as I possibly can be. And a way that I am choosing to do that is by using a classic tool that I can give to you guys, which is just that five senses tool, right? To be present helps us to be just in this moment and not being up in our heads, not being in the future, not being in the past, but in this moment and just taking it in, looking at my daughter a little bit more, looking at my kids. I mean, all of them. It's just a crazy time. And just using my five senses of what am I feeling, hearing, seeing, touching, tasting. I don't know. I think I said a couple of those double, but you get to understand what I mean by just using those as a way for me to stay grounded, stay in this moment, not be living in the scarcity of what the future is going to bring or even in the past and clinging on to what I think I should still have. It's staying here in this moment. And it's a bittersweet time. It's a very bittersweet time. So my choice is just to embrace more of the present moment as much as I possibly can. And I encourage you guys to do the same. That's my intention for this month of April. So I want to talk to you guys. Some of you guys reached out to me and noticed I'm not doing podcasts every single week. I'm doing a more of what I feel compelled to do. If I'm feeling stuck or stagnant, I just don't want to create podcasts from that space. It just is not useful to me. It's not useful to you. And so last week I didn't create one because I have been living in this place where I am noticing some things that I just don't necessarily agree with when it comes to the coaching industry, the self-development world. And again, I think these moments are beautiful because they kind of help me realign and kind of understand my values and double down on what I want to stand for and who I want to be. And I've seen this in the coaching industry. And again, this is not all or nothing. And this is not saying like every coach out there or every self-development, a therapist or anything that they're all like this. That's not what I'm saying. But I think it's a moment for me to reflect and say, okay, what do I want to bring and who do I want to be? And what is the purpose of the tools and the coaching that I want to bring to you guys? And so last week I took some self-reflection time and it's been really, really good. I've had so many conversations with other coaches, with my dear friend and coach, Mark Butler, who I actually am going to have on the podcast here in a couple of weeks. We talked about it and I was like, okay, we need to just get on because I think conversations are just so valuable. But as I've been having more of this opportunity for me to speak what's been on my heart and have places where they can land and have people kind of question things for me, it's still not all the way clear yet, but I'm starting to really come to this place of where I want to go with my coaching and how I want to better serve you guys. Because if you think about, or let me just share what I've been thinking is, I think about coaching. I'm like, okay, what do I want to bring to you guys? What is the purpose of coaching? And the thing that I've seen, this theme that I've seen lately is, I'm just going to come out and say it, is the things that become too selfish. And I'm not saying this again, blanket statement that every coach or every person who's doing self-development is a selfish person, but I think also at the same time I am. But I almost see this pendulum that has swung too far. Pendulums are a beautiful thing. They help us to kind of gauge where we're at, but on the extremes of both sides, that's where I think there is problems. It's where I see I've talked to you guys about the head and the heart. When I first got into coaching was all about thought work and how that was one side of the pendulum of being in our brains, understanding and becoming aware of our thoughts. Beautiful thing for us to understand, but staying there can keep us stuck. And so I noticed this swing that's happened where we've swung over to the emotion side and really understanding all of those emotions and what they can do and processing them. But I've also noticed where we've kind of gotten stuck there. Now we're all talking so much about trauma, narcissism, all of these things that have almost got us stuck. And so it's this place where we've got to understand we got to swing back more into the middle. And again, I don't even know what that means. It's not like I'm saying there's a perfect centered place where we, have to find it. That's not what I'm saying, but I was understanding that my perspective is, let me just even share this pendulum with you guys. When I first got into coaching, it was very hard for me to help others and myself to understand the benefit of being selfish. That we've grown up in a society, especially in the LDS Church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, where we picked up this narrative that it was actually bad for us to think about ourselves. And so we had to kind of work through that and learn that actually being selfish and taking care of ourselves is a beautiful thing. It actually helps us to grow. If we are all about serving other people, that's where we get burnt out, right? And so learning to turn that back around and being willing to, hey, question, what makes me me? Who am I? Working on this relationship with myself, knowing my thoughts, knowing my emotions. It's a very beautiful thing, but that is one side of the pendulum. And so as we've done that in these last couple of years, I've noticed this pendulum swing to the other side where people are all about themselves and only themselves. And it's kind of like, you know what? I'm done with you. I don't need you in my world anymore. And I just need to go find myself. And I just need to work on myself. And I need to work on healing all of my trauma. And I need to, and again, I'm not knocking those that have a lot of trauma, or I'm not saying that that's not a valid thing, but we've almost gotten to a place of being so self-centered on ourselves that we have forgotten the connection, that we have forgotten what it's like to be more in the middle. Understanding that, yes, you do need to understand yourself. Yes, you do need to heal and to understand your emotions and your thoughts. But it also does not mean that you need to become an island and that you only need to think about yourself and that you only need to be in relationships with yourself and screw everybody else, right? It's this both, this and approach that I love to talk about. It's being selfish, becoming aware of yourself, and getting out of your way, not getting stuck in the self-centeredness in order for you to have the growth. I've seen this a lot with the kids in this world. And again, not knocking this. I think, again, especially as kids, we are taught to kind of be selfish, that it's kind of a survival of the fittest a little bit, even if I don't agree with that. But I saw this in this book recently. I've been reading so much and it's been so awesome and amazing, but it's helped me to challenge my thoughts. I think that's one thing I do love about consumption is it helps me to, when I do self-reflection with it, helps me to understand what I've been thinking and what I've been acknowledging. And one of the things that I've noticed is so many people so fixated on trauma, so fixated on anxiety, so fixated on getting a diagnosis that it almost has kept people in this little bubble. And so that we see people that are feeling so, they have social anxiety or they have these things. And again, I'm not knocking it and saying it's not right, but we've almost gotten to this place where I've got to fix this. I got to heal this first in order for me to go to a party or go to any kind of event. And I want to help everybody to understand that we want to know our emotions. We want to know that we are thinking and feeling this way, but then that there's this place that we have to understand to get out of your own mind and go out there and be with other people. If you have social anxiety, I think it's a beautiful thing for us to say, like, yeah, I feel anxiety. And then I'm going to show up in this event. I'm going to bring anxiety with me. I'm going to bring it in my backpack. And then I'm going to go make it and ask questions about everybody else, not to resist the anxiety that I have, but more of like, you know what? I don't want to focus on myself because what I focus on, I create. If I focus on my social anxiety and I stay in a bubble, I create more social anxiety. It's a both and approach. It's a place where I feel socially awkward. I feel anxiety about what I'm thinking and feeling. And I'm going to show myself that I can survive, that I can show up and be about other people in this world. And it's what I encourage. I think we need more people encouraging our youth to do this. Our college age kids it's get out of your own way. Feel lazy. I think that's another one. Feel lazy and like you don't want to do this and go and do it anyways. Get out of your own way. Because I think that's the problem that we're having is we are now in this place of just coddling and trying to be super soft with our emotions. And it's coming at a detriment. We are becoming but at the same time, so consumed with ourselves. And it's coming at a cost to our connection and our loneliness. I look at loneliness, it is at an all-time high. I look at the disconnection, it is at an all-time high, even though we are so connected with people. It is understanding that we need to get out of our own heads and get out of our emotions and get out and get going and start living our lives. a both and approach. Coaching is a beautiful thing. It helps us to become aware of the things that we were not aware of. But that is not because you need to get in there and solve everything. You need to not feel a certain way before you go and take action. It's at both and. Learn how to recognize what you're thinking. Learn how to acknowledge what you're feeling. If you do have trauma from your past, yes, acknowledge it, but we don't need to be so self-consumed of over analyzing every reason why we do what we do and diagnosing it for a certain purpose before we can go and take action. There's so many people that are so disconnected from their families right now because of all of the things that they think they have trauma from. Now, again, this is not all or nothing in saying that no matter what things have happened to you in the past, that you need to be associated with everybody. But I'm talking about the people that they have just diagnosed themselves with having lots of trauma in their past. And so they have blamed their parents. And now they're disconnected from their parents or from their grandparents or from their cousins. And I think there's a softer place to be with this, of understanding we don't need to be a victim to our thoughts, our emotions, to people in this world. It's empower yourself. Let the pendulum, notice what you're feeling, notice what you're thinking, but come back to this middle place of you're not a victim. You're not a victim to anything. You're not a victim to your past. You're not a victim to your emotions. You're not a victim to your thoughts. Get out of your way, empower yourself, and to start showing up and be connected with everybody else. I see this thing that is happening in this world. And as a coach, I do not want to be an advocate for you staying a victim. And I don't want to become an advocate for you needing to seclude yourself, put yourself in a bubble and get rid of every other interaction in this world, or even self-care yourself to the point where you're saying like, well, I can't be out with them because they make me feel a certain way. No, it's learning like there's a balance and you have to trust yourself. You'll know what that balance is, but it comes from a place of love versus trying to guard yourself and armor yourself up all of the time. Coaching is about acknowledgement. Coaching is about awareness. Coaching is about knowing how to turn on the lights to acknowledge what you're feeling and say, like, you know what, I'm feeling anxious right now. Oh, you know what? It's because of what I'm choosing to think. And I could be wrong about that. And I'm going to go to work with this. We don't need to encourage the staying stuck or to, and that's why it's so hard for me to word this, but we do want to find ourselves. We do want to know ourselves, but we don't need to stop our life and our connections in order for that to happen. I think other people in our world, in our lives, help us to see actually more of our parts of ourselves that we aren't willing to acknowledge. I think the parents that were hard and difficult for us, and now that we're as adults, we're looking back and we're seeing that, I was like, man, I got some trauma from this. Fine. But don't stop. Don't disconnect. Don't wait around. Just know that, like, see those parts of yourself, see those emotions, and move forward. Move through the tunnel versus staying stuck. We don't need to be so consumed with our emotions and our thoughts that we stop living our life. Our life is meant to be lived. It is. And that doesn't come at the disconnection or the stopping of who we are in the process. Coaching is about living your life. Coaching is about empowering yourself. Self-development, understanding your emotions and your thoughts. It's a beautiful thing, but not to be consumed with it. We don't need to be thinking about our problems all the time. We don't need to be feeling our emotions all of the time. It's a both and approach. So I don't know if you needed to hear this. This is just me speaking of where I am, what I'm kind of going through right now, and just realigning of like, okay, what do I want to do? Because I, as a coach, don't want to be part of the problem. Now, I can't force myself to be a part of the problem. You can take coaching however you want to, but I look at this and I'm like, I don't want to encourage more of the problem. I don't want to encourage people to be selfish to the point where they're disconnecting from their lives and their families. I don't want that. I want to empower people. I want to empower people to turn on the lights, to acknowledge what's there, see what's keeping them stuck, and to move forward, to become somebody that it does think about other people, that does want to stay in their marriages, that does want to stay in their families, and doesn't want to leave because they think that they're causing some kind of problems or that they only made those decisions in the past because of that too. You are in this life for a reason, not because you're a victim to it. So coaching can help you figure that out. Anyways, that's what's on my heart. I love every single one of you guys. I do believe in coaching. I do believe that it is so powerful to be able to acknowledge what we are thinking and feeling, to empower ourselves. And it is a beautiful thing to be a part of. Anyways, if you have thoughts, if you want to yell at me, if you want to tell me your perspective on this, I would love to hear it. Again, These are my thoughts. It's not always true. This is just what feels real to me. Who knows? In a month from now, I may come back and say something completely different. But I think the more we can share what's on our heart instead of hiding it and thinking like, oh, I can't share this with other people. I think the more conversations, more communication that we can have in this world, the better off we're going to be. So communicate with me. Tell me your thoughts on this. Text me if you are a good dear friend of mine and you are, listening to this. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where I'm right. I want to hear from you. And join me on the grams, Chantel on Coaching. Tell me what you're thinking. All right. Talk to you guys next week.